I want to ask a quick question. I want to have a quick conversation because there's another team on the other side that's going to shut down a player probably for the season to work on his knee, and that's Joel Embiid. And he's probably going to shut down. They're probably going to shut down Paul George for the season too. Joel Embiid is an interesting. He's going to go down in NBA history, and as just an interesting guy to place because when you look at the talent in the regular season, everything is there. The post-up game, elite. The back to the basket, elite. The face-up in the mid-range, elite. He can hit the three ball. The handle is sound. He may not be the best at playmaking, but he was getting better.
Got better.
Reading double teams. He was getting better at seeing the floor. Really elite rebounder, elite rim protector. Not the best in drop, but he's a big dude. Then you get to the playoffs. Everything drops down. Can you assess it to injuries? Can you assess it to just he's not a playoff performer? There's guys in the NBA history that just aren't playoff performers. That's just somewhere they aren't the best at. Now we're sitting here, and would you guys consider or would you guys think Joel Embiid, like where do you have Joel Embiid? Because he has an MVP, but he doesn't have the playoff success you would like from a guy as talented as himself. But the excuse is going to be, well, he's never really been injured. He's never really been healthy going into a playoff series. So is he like, in terms of what ifs, where do we stand with Embiid? Is he a what if or he's just, because I'm so confused on his player arc. I don't know where he would be.
I feel like you have a firm answer on this, Riv. I feel like you know where you stand on this, but I will say this. I think, yes, what if Embiid didn't have injury concerns will always be a what if with him. But he has not performed in the playoffs. Against the Raptors in 2019, he got locked up by Marc Gasol, and he was a clear negative for them. Against the Atlanta Hawks, they were up against the Hawks, and in the fourth quarters, he didn't play well, and that's a big reason why they choked, along with Ben Simmons forgetting how to play basketball, and that's why the Hawks made the Eastern Conference Finals. There's definitely more opportunities for Embiid than not for him to have a better reputation in the playoffs, and it hasn't happened. I think two things can be true. I think Joel Embiid is a player that was nagged by injuries that we never got to fully realize his full ceiling because of those injuries. I also think that he's a clear playoff underperformer.
I want to say, from what he showed me last season, I'm optimistic of what can be if he were to be healthy come playoff time. He was not healthy. He played through Bell's palsy, and we watched him have a 50-point playoff game. Now, he was injured for a good portion of the season. That's the reason why the Sixers were even in that position in the first place as the 7th seed. We saw how amazing he was his MVP season. Even then, that's a year that he was unhealthy in the postseason. And I'm not going to give him a pass for losing to the Celtics, especially because they could have closed out on their home court. So I'll say that being consistent, Joel, what you're saying in the past with Embiid's playoff history is also sound. But from what he has shown us in the regular season and how great he looked last year in the postseason, I feel like even still, regardless of the injury history, kind of like we did with Kawhi, the only difference is obviously Kawhi is such a huge playoff riser that he gets a lot more leeway in these conversations. But it's the opposite. He's not really active in the regular season, but come playoff time, you can rely on him, maybe not of recent, but in the majority of his career with Embiid, he's pretty reliable come regular season for a majority of his career, not as in recent. And then come playoff time, his body shuts down. I still have Joel Embiid as a minimum top 10 player, but I'm not going to drop him all the way lower than that because when he is healthy, when he is on the floor, it's undeniable. He's still one of the best in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's on like a Derrick Rose, Brandon Roy in terms of like what ifs, right? Because he gave us multiple years of playing like 60 games. He went like 6 straight years of giving us 50 plus, which, listen, you play 50 out of 82. That's not great, but it's also outside of those first 2 seasons where he just completely didn't play. He played majority of the other seasons. His third year, he only played 30 games. So like really those first 3 years were super injury prone. And these last 2 have been also pretty injury prone. But those middle years, he's given us, 50 to 60, 65 games most of the seasons. And when we saw he was at his peak, this is a guy that was a, top 3 MVP candidate for multiple seasons. And he won the MVP a couple of seasons ago, even if people want to call it a pity MVP because Joker already won back-to-back. So they just felt like we can't give it to him once again. But in terms of like history, where does Joel Embiid rank? He's not like an all-time great, right? Like this is a guy that dominated regular seasons, but he was also someone that was super injury prone and someone that really didn't show up in the playoffs. Injuries aside, right? It's obvious that in all of these, or basically most of these playoff runs, he was banged up. Like Joel mentioned, like he did get locked up by Marc Gasol. He struggled in multiple playoff series against Al Horford to the point where they went and signed Al Horford, so they didn't have to go up against him a few seasons back. So in an all-time ranking, where does Embiid rank? Like, this is not a guy I'm looking at like, damn, man, like if he just would have been healthy for X, Y, and Z, he would have been a top 10 guy of all time. I don't know if we see that just because we have a large sample size, a decently large sample size of him in the playoffs compared to some of these other what ifs where they just don't have that type of leeway.
Okay. I can understand that answer. Drew, you say top 10 player. And I think it's fair if you're talking about the player before. But this season, when he has played, he has not looked good. It has not been a consistent thing. Going forward, he's probably not going to be healthy ever. So when does he – because I get the whole Kawhi leeway thing, but Kawhi, like you mentioned, gets the benefit of the doubt because when he plays, he's always elite, and in the playoffs, he's amazing. When does Joel Embiid get that tag taken away?
It's tough because I know how great he is, and obviously we all know how great Joel Embiid is when he's 100% healthy. I'm trying to be fair and keep him in ranking, but I can't think of putting players that are not better than him above him off the sole fact that I know how great he is when he's on the court. And that's kind of where I'm at. But I understand the logic of if he's not going to be on the court, then you can't rank him. I think I'm okay with that. I'm fine with not ranking him until he's back on the court because that's kind of what we've done with Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard doesn't get spoken about like a top 20, 25 player when for a majority, even while he was missing time, we had him as a top 10 player. But as of recent, we've just kind of taken him out of rankings. Like, where do we really plop Kawhi? We really don't. So I'm okay with doing that if we're going to do that as well with Joel Embiid. But I know, and we all know, that when he is on that court, there are not many that are better than him.
I just feel like a current player ranking, 100% gets you. An all-time ranking, Kawhi Leonard has a better case for an all-time ranking because he's accomplished so much, even with the injuries. Joel Embiid all-time, who's the worst player that you're putting him over all-time?
Damn,
that played the center position to make it a little bit easier.
Marc Gasol? That was just the first name. I don't know why that was the first name that got brought up, but yeah, that's the first. You said center.
Joel Embiid at his best or Marc Gasol? Like, let's be serious.
That's why I said
Embiid at his best. It's Embiid, but
Embiid's better. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I'm still going with Dwight Howard over Embiid.
See, that's the next name I was going to say. Joel Embiid at his best or Dwight Howard at his best? I think the answer is Joel Embiid.
But what's his best? 50 games.
The MVP season.
I would rather probably have Dwight.
I'd rather have Dwight.
That offense is flawless from Joel Embiid.
Yeah, but I know Dwight's going to give me that elite defense throughout the playoffs, too.
But Joel Embiid's a really strong defender in his own right. Plus, he's one of the elite offensive players this game's ever seen.
Embiid in his MVP season, didn't they choke against the Celtics?
He did, but he was also hurt in that series.
See, that's
no, and I agree. And I started
3-2.
off by saying I don't want to give him a pass for that series for him not closing out.
Bro. They were up 3-2. Tatum was having the worst game of his career in Game 6. They were up in that fourth quarter and blew it. Then they went back to Boston in Game 7. Tatum dropped 50. And that was, you know what I mean? So like they had opportunities to do it.
Like a what if center is like Bill Walton, who won his only year he was healthy. And yeah, I'll go Bill Walton over Joel Embiid.
We haven't seen Joel Embiid at his best then. You like the way that Bill Walton had that 1 year, he was able to stay healthy. We've never seen that.
I feel like we have seen Embiid have playoff series where he has been available, like healthy. Okay, when has he ever been healthy? Okay, he's probably never been 100% healthy, but he's been able to play and he's been available and he's not played well.
Listen, if you're talking skill for skill, Joel Embiid is top 3 most skilled big ever. Probably like top 3, top 5 skill. But if we're talking just which player I want, who's going to give me sound impact, who's going to be available for me, I don't see how I'm taking him over Dwight Howard.
The availability is where you got it.
Dwight Howard is giving you, he gave you a smooth 9-10 seasons of just elevation in the regular season and the playoffs.
Hey, am I going Dwight or Patrick Ewing? I mean, Embiid or Patrick Ewing?
Pat.
You got to take Pat, unfortunately, for Embiid.
In the big man era, what Pat was doing, give me Pat, man. Fuck Embiid.
Yo, what would Joel Embiid have done in that big man era?
Probably what Pat was doing.
Maybe better.
Or not play.
Cook.
Probably, yeah. Especially you don't have the medicine you have today.
I don't want to act like Embiid to just go there and kill, because he has to see Hakeem every other night, David Robinson every other night, Shaq this ain't going to see Andre Drummond. This ain't going to see Jackson Hayes. No, this is going to the cream of the crop big man era where you have to see an elite big every night.
Hey,
like the guards now, but
isn't there something to say about Joel Embiid going up against Jokic and majority of the time getting the upper hand?
They actually played.
It's been almost 5 years.
Yeah, they don't even play.
No, yeah, I think, Embiid is most definitely arguably one of the most skilled centers of all time, or the most skilled big men of all time. I just feel like even it's translated in the regular season. It just really hasn't translated in the playoffs. Even when he's been hurt, when he's had something nagging, there have been opportunities to put teams away, and he just hasn't done it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, sorry, Rib. I
thought Drew was going to respond. He didn't respond.
I thought Dels was cooking.
Embiid, man.
He was cooking. I agree. It's unfortunate because you want those top end talents like him, Kawhi, Brandon Roy, D Rose. You want them to play because it just makes the competition so much. Like, imagine if D Rose was healthy and we got those point guard battles with him, John Wall. Now he's playing with Steph. And
Embiid's had teams too. It's not like Embiid's had just like dog shit teammates. Like, he has had some really top level teammates too, and he just hasn't been able to.
Let's be fair. Let's be fair to Embiid. The bounce was crazy.
I don't blame that on him. He didn't play well that series though.
Toronto also did a great job of stopping Giannis.
Of course, they're elite.
The defense was amazing, is what I'm saying.
Nobody's denying that. The bounce was crazy.
The bounce was nuts. It was game 7.
It wasn't winning the OT though.
How do you know that?
No, I don't know. It wasn't even going to OT. Bounce. Yeah. Listen, it's like Embiid outside of the fourth quarters, he was pretty great against Atlanta. Like, I won't deny that. He played really well against Atlanta.
Yeah, he did. I just think that when it comes to Embiid, it's like he could have, if he stays healthy, he could have either been an all-time great who went on a finals run, or he could have been James Harden. I think either of those two scenarios would have happened.
Wait, who?
Embiid either, if he stayed healthy, Embiid either would have been an all-time great who won a championship, or he would have been James Harden.
What's more likely, man?
Me and James Harden so funny to me.
Being James Harden's an all-time great.
Yeah, that's not wrong with being James Harden.
Like it's like, damn, like I'm James Harden. Like,
well, yeah, it's just a playoff underperformer.
Could have said Charles Barkley, man.
Well, Charles Barkley led his team to the finals.
I wouldn't say he was an underperformer in the playoffs.
James Harden? I don't like. I feel like calling him James Harden, I feel like it's disrespectful to James Harden.
Embiid?
Yeah.
Hey, listen. I mean, the team that beat Harden at his best was the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, I
mean, that's Harden, not. Yeah, Embiid didn't run into that.
Harden's top 5 in his position.
Yeah, Embiid ran into fucking Al Horford and Marcus Gasol and shit. This dude ran into fucking the KD Warriors, bro. Like,
yeah, that's why. But I'm just saying from like a playoff underperformance standpoint, because Harden's reputation, although not the most fair, still is a playoff underperformer. He doesn't live up to his regular season standard.
The most fair. I think the only season Harden really gets the pass is 2018.
His prime years where the Rockets were at his best, definitely unfair.
Like, which years would you argue?
2017 to 2018, after the Spurs series, basically.
Oh,
the series that he got benched?
Manu Ginobili blocked him?
No, the series that they, in game 6, they lost with the Spurs not having, I think, LaMarcus Aldridge or Kawhi. I don't know.
He had a world, a record-breaking, here we go, Drew, record-breaking game in which he had like 12 turnovers.
Yeah, he was terrible in that game. It was a closeout game for the Rockets, and he didn't show up.
Hate to see it.
I'm talking about the prime years. The prime years, definitely that first year with Chris Paul, the second year with Chris Paul, and then that third year when he had Russell Westbrook. Those were the 3 where I thought he played well.
you.